Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This episode is going to be video, whatever. This video, I think I'm gonna talk about my experience about healing from an abusive relationship. It's something that I've been silent about for a few years, and I feel like I'm ready to talk about it and, just share it with people who may not have expected that I've gone through an abusive relationship. And so how do I start this? So about a little over 10 years ago, I met someone through mutual friends and we started dating. We dated probably less than a year, and in the beginning it was nice. I thought it was good, and towards the end it was just chaotic and toxic, and I found out they were cheating on me and we broke up. And so fast forward to a few years later, I reconnected with this person through a mutual friend's wedding, and at the time of our breakup we both moved to different states, different cities, and when we reconnected we moved back to our hometown. So we reconnected at a friend's wedding, and I was expecting for us to discuss like how we ended and kind of move forward, in a direction where we both could be cordial. But I ended up back into a relationship with this person, which was not wise on my part. I totally didn't consult God. I didn't pray about it. I was just like, wow, like this person is back in my life and I really love this person. And so we began dating again. And this was during the pandemic. And in the beginning, it was all nice. There was a lot of love bombing. There was gifts and things and all of that. And 2 weeks into us getting back together, there was actually a red flag that I ignored that I shouldn't have ignored. This person said that they were in touch with their ex, basically the ex that they cheated on me with, because they shared dogs, and he was sending her money for the dogs. And coincidentally, he ended up telling me this detail after we decided to get back together. And it was something that bothered me a lot, because it's like, you're still in touch with your ex, you're still in touch with the person that you were dating while you were dating me, and you just dropped this bomb on me. What am I supposed to do? And along with that, he also claimed that she was suicidal. And during this time, I was about a year and a half post grieving one of my closest friends' death, who died by suicide. And so he kind of put me in a difficult situation where I wasn't comfortable with him being in contact with this person, but as well as I didn't know what to do because he was claiming she was suicidal, and I didn't want to be the cause of whatever may happen from that scenario. So I kind of just was like, okay, just be honest with me. Whenever you have to communicate with her, just let me know about the dogs or whatever. Like, I was totally understanding. Actually, I was delusional, but anyways, so the world shut down and we're dating. I was in school, we were both finishing school. Actually, things were nice until they weren't, and we were just having a lot of problems. He made me feel like I was the problem when the whole time he was dating another person in the mix. We went through premarital counseling, we went through counseling, couples counseling. I went through counseling. He made me feel like I was the problem. He was gaslighting me so much and kept me in the dark that I felt like I was the issue because of the lies he was telling me. He was telling me that I wasn't communicative and I didn't open up enough and all of these things. And it had me confused because I thought I was doing everything in my part in the relationship. But it turned out he was just manipulative and lying and just living a double life that caused me to just see my world differently and see myself differently. And so fast forward, he tries to break up with me, and out of nowhere, out of the blue, and I'm just like, what's going on? But I'm like, okay. And then he gets back with me. He's like, oh, I made a mistake. And during this whole course of this relationship, I was very confused because I was doing everything I could. When we were going through couples counseling, he made me feel like I needed counseling, like I was the problem and I needed to get help, when in reality, he was just lying to me and gaslighting me about the girls that he was with while he was in a committed relationship with me. And he can't claim that we were never together, because I was always over his family's house and I would be over for family dinners. So his family knew me very well as his girlfriend. This is 2020. Fast forward to the new year, 2021. He decides to move across the country. We were both in Florida and he decides to move to Seattle. During this time, again, like, we're going through a lot of problems, and he's just claiming like his mental health is not doing well and that he's just unhappy, and I'm in full support at this time of whatever he wants to make him happy. unhappy, and I'm under the impression that I'm the reason why he's unhappy, that I'm the reason why he just can't find joy. And I was just fully in support, you know, of whatever he wanted. And he moved across the country, and then he manipulated me and saying like, why didn't you ask me to stay? Why did you let me leave? And I'm just like confused and just emotionally exhausted, because it's like, you're telling me that you're unhappy where you're at, and you're telling me that I'm the problem. And so I'm just being in full support of what you want and what makes you happy. And so if moving far away across the country makes you happy, then do that. And so he would still, you know, string me along and say that he would want to marry me. And he would also lie and say, you know, throughout this course, he would also lie and say that God told him I was his wife. Meanwhile, before he moved, we would go to church, we'd be worshiping together, all the things. And he got another girl pregnant during this time and made her get an abortion. And mind you, I'm in the dark about all of these things. And I'm thinking like he's really going through a mental health crisis, like he's just really unhappy. No, he was just caught up in a web of his own lies. And I'm convinced the reason why he moved across the country is because his lies were catching up to him, and he just wanted a clean slate and go to a new city and just be him. But at the same time, while he moved to Seattle and I stayed in Florida, he still kept in contact with me and led me to believe that I was the one for him. And at this time, again, like I'm unaware that he's cheating on me. So all of these details that I'm explaining now are details that I found out after the fact. I'm still in the dark about all of these things. And then I go visit him in his new city in Seattle, and I go for my birthday and I take a picture on his rooftop, and his ex, the one that he was sending money for his dogs, he had claimed that he gave up the dogs and stopped talking to her. She reaches out to me. She sees that my profile picture is at his new apartment in Seattle, and you know, she reaches out to me. She's like, hey, I need to know what's going on because we've been dating for 8 years and XYZ. And to my surprise, I respond to her and I said, we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. So that blew up, and we both were on three-way with him, and he was just caught in his lie. She was living in another state as well, so it was just easy for him to kind of just be in a physical relationship with me while being in a long distance relationship with her, and another physical relationship with another girl at the same time. So that blew up, and you would think that I would learn my lesson. No, I was so delusional that I remained in this relationship with this person. At this time, when everything blew up, he was also claiming that he didn't want to live anymore. During the beginning of our relationship, we found a puppy for him, and he started to, you know, raise the dog. And when everything blew up, when the truth came out, he was trying to pawn off his dog to me, saying that the dog is the only reason why he's living, and you know, he doesn't want to live anymore. And I refused to take the dog because I believed, you know, I told them, I'm like, that dog is the only thing that's keeping you alive right now. But to my surprise, during this time while he was crying wolf, claiming to want to end his life, he was on Hinge. And being in a new city, trying to meet new people, he was dating other women at the same time. So this is in the beginning of 2021. So during this time when he's claiming to want to end his life and all these things, I'm in Florida, he's in Washington. I'm confused, I'm praying, I'm just praying to God like that he doesn't take his life, because again, I've lost someone close to me to suicide, and I just couldn't go through that again. And I was also very confused. I wanted to end the relationship or whatever we had at this time, but he kept still stringing me along, and so I just felt stuck. So, you know, I visited him a couple times, and it's so funny, he was dating a girl that was in his building, and I'm just like, why did I never run into her, or why did she never see us together whenever we would walk his dog, or any of those things. And another girl that he met, that he was dating, lived just a block over as well. And so I don't know how he got away with all of this at the same time. I was enduring all of this through emotional abuse and verbal abuse. He was very abusive towards me. He was never physically abusive towards me. You know, just all of the lying and the gaslighting and the manipulating, and me being paranoid about other girls, and him assuring me like there's no one else. I just went through like psychological warfare with this man. 2 instances where he got physical, but it wasn't with me. There was one time where we were in the car. This is when we were still in Florida. We were driving, we were on a road trip, and my preceptor from work texted me, and he was a male. And he sees his name on my phone, and he's like, why is he texting you? And I'm like, I don't know, it might be work related. Like, he's like, why are you still texting him? And it's just like, this is the person who's training me for work. And I don't have any control. Like, I still have to be in contact with this person. And I remember him slamming the middle console, asking me again, why is this man texting me? And I was really scared, and we were in the middle of a road trip, and I'm just like, wow, like, I don't know what's gonna happen. While he's driving, he's looking on his phone, he's looking up flights, so that way when we get to our destination, he can fly me back home. And I'm like, no, it's fine, like, you don't have to do that. It blows over. We get to our Airbnb and we check in, and he stays out in the car for quite some time. And I'm like, okay, like, he's upset, whatever. Comes back inside, and he said that he was about to shoot himself. And this is part of the emotional abuse that I endured, was that he was constantly saying that he was gonna end his life. This is also part of the reason why I felt like I couldn't leave the relationship, because I felt like if I ended the relationship, I was afraid of getting a phone call saying that he ended his life. And I was, again, still grieving my friend, and I couldn't go through that pain again. The second instance was, we were in his new apartment in Seattle, and we were arguing, and I can't remember what we were arguing about. He was by the kitchen counter, and he pulled out the drawer, and he was doing something, and he yelled and slammed the counter and broke the drawer. And I remember thinking in that moment, I said, this man is gonna end up hitting me, and then he's gonna end up killing me if I don't get out of this relationship. And again, he's never physically put his hands on me, but our arguments got so bad that there were just instances where I was just like, okay, he's really angry. And mind you, he's still orchestrating his web of lies. And this is why our relationship, we were always fighting, because I was always paranoid, or I would ask him simple questions, and he would just lie to me and manipulate me. So fast forward to 2022, I would have moments where I'm like, oh, hey, we need to end this, and we wouldn't speak, and then he would reach out to me. And I never changed my number or blocked him, because again, I was thinking about his mental health. I was thinking that he was, not doing the best. He's alone in a new city. He doesn't have a community. And so I would always leave the line of communication open in case he needed to talk to me, in case he needed anything. Meanwhile, he's living his life, living it up in his new city, dating 2 different girls at the same time, in a committed relationship with both of them, and telling me that he wants me back, that he only sees himself with me, that he wants to marry me, and all of these things. And in 2022 was when I was praying to the Lord, and I was like, Lord, I need to get out of this situation. I don't know how to get out of this situation. I'm afraid that if I end this with this person, he's gonna kill himself. And I just started to pray and fast and really seek God during this whole situationship that I was in. And I was seeing demons in my apartment. I was having nightmares, sleep paralysis, all the things. And thankfully I had my mentor, like my best friend Jordan, who was my good counsel through this experience, where she was telling me, like, you really need to cut off this guy. And again, I was in the dark about the extra woman that he was dating. I only knew about one at this time. And at this time, I also believed that he was my husband, because he said that God told him I was his wife, and he was just feeding me all of these lies. And so I was just in an emotional web of just, I need to leave the situation. I'm afraid to leave the situation, because if I do, I'm afraid that he's gonna take his life. And what if he is my husband? What if we're supposed to end up together and we're just going through a rough patch, and God can redeem anything? So I was like, okay, God, like, I really need to clearly hear from you, because I've been believing this man and his lies, and I need to hear from you directly. So I did a 3-week fast, a 3-week Daniel fast, and I gave the Lord 2 signs to let me know if this person, if he was my husband or if he was a counterfeit. And within the first week, the sign that I gave the Lord to let me know if he was a counterfeit came up 3 times the first week of the fast. And so I was like, okay, I accept, I'm accepting that this is not the person that you have for me, but I don't know how to let him go, because again, I'm just traumatized from the death of my friend, that I'm afraid if I cut off everything with this person, I'm gonna get a phone call that I don't want to get. I said to the Lord, I prayed to him, and I said, okay, Lord, I know that this person's not for me, so he's gonna have to let me go. And so that was the summer of 2022. Throughout that summer, we didn't speak. I was going through therapy, was just trying to go through healing and reframe my thinking, because he really made me see myself in a horrible light. He made me feel like I was always in the wrong, or I was always doing something wrong, or that there was always something wrong with me. And so I went through therapy that summer, and thank God for my therapist. She really helped build up my confidence. And I got to the point where I was like, I can finally let this man go. I can move on from this relationship. And I felt like I needed to reach out to him and tell him like, hey, like, this is done. But my therapist was like, you don't need to tell him, because it had been about a month or two that we hadn't spoken. And she was like, yeah, you don't need to tell him. You could just move on with your life. And so I was like, okay, good. So I was just living my life and just working on healing myself from what I experienced in this relationship. And then the fall of 2022, I get a phone call from him. And at this point, I deleted his name off my phone. So it was just his number, and I recognized his number. And pick up the phone, and the first thing he tells me is, I'm letting you go. That was the first thing. The first words that he told me was that he was letting me go. During that conversation, he was telling me how he was moving to Connecticut, and he got into NYU, and he bought a house, and he got all these things, and he's been dating girls, and he couldn't find me in the girls that he was dating. And he would always wonder if he would always cross paths again, or whatever the case may be. And he was very, very manipulative again in that phone call. After that phone call, we were fighting, of course, because I knew what he was doing. I recognized his tactics at this point, and I was like, you're not about to emotionally manipulate me. Like, you're making me feel like I'm the one in the wrong when you're the one who cheated on me. And mind you, even after I found out that he cheated on me with the first girl that I knew at the time, I told him, I was like, you lost my trust, and I'm still in this relationship with you. You need to gain my trust again. And he would make me feel like I was crazy when I would question, and I would just simply question, like, hey, like, is this girl that you met, that your yoga instructor, like, are you dating her? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, like, you're crazy. There's nothing going on. She's a lesbian. And so I would ask him calmly questions that I would feel like, hey, like, I feel like, you're lying to me again. You're still lying to me. And he would just resort to calling me crazy, and just resort to saying that I'm the person that needs help and I need to heal, when he fractured my trust. After that conversation, I finally was like, okay, I'm blocking his number, and I'm changing my number so he can never reach out to me ever again. And that was another thing that I worked out with my therapist. Was I was telling her I was afraid of letting him go, because I was afraid of the state of his mental being, and she was telling me, like, you can't be his savior, you can't save him. I was wrestling with all of these emotions and all of these thoughts, and I'm like, I knew I needed to leave this relationship because this person was not treating me well at all. I was protecting his feelings and his mental state at the expense of my own. And thank God for my therapist. She helped me through that. I finally realized that I couldn't help this person. If the things that he was experiencing were legitimate, if he really felt like he didn't want to live anymore, I couldn't be his savior. And he would also claim that I brought him closer to God. And that's another red flag. If a person's saying that you bring me closer to God, like, I'm human, I'm gonna fail you. So if you depend on me for your relationship with God, I'm gonna be a horrible example of who God is, because essentially you're making me your God. You're making me an idol in your life. And so I was processing through this all with my therapist the summer of 2022, that inevitably, like, just helped me close the door on that chapter. And so after I changed my number and decided that I never wanted to speak or see him again, I had to go through a wilderness season. I lost my friends that I had at the time. I think the friends that I had during my season with him didn't realize the abuse that I was enduring, the verbal and emotional abuse, and psychological abuse as well. While we were dating, while we were back in Florida, there was one time where a girl that I was suspicious about FaceTimed him while I was with him. And I was like, why wouldn't you pick that up? If that's your physical therapist and she knows about me, why wouldn't you pick up the phone with me with you? And I would experience these things with him. I had to go through a lot of deconstructing of the things he's told me about myself, the things that he made me feel, and it wasn't pretty. If you were my friend during this time and we no longer speak, I just want to apologize and just say I was really embarrassed of what I was going through, and I felt like I had no one to talk to about this with, because when I got back together with this person, my friends were not for it at all. They were not not that they were not supportive. They were supportive of me, but they were not supportive of me getting back with him because of what I went through with him the first time. And when I got back together with him, it seemed like he turned over a new leaf, like he was a new person, like he's grown and matured. And he really just fed me lies. He really, he wrote me letters in the beginning of our relationship saying, "You're the one for me." I spoke with my dad and, I read the Bible and God told me you were my wife. And so I believed these lies. I was very convinced that I was going to end up with this person. If you were my friend during that time, during the end of my relationship with him, I was just really embarrassed and I felt alone and isolated, like I couldn't talk to anybody about what I was going through because one, I felt like a burden and I felt like I got myself into this situation that my friends at the time didn't want me to get into. It was hard for me to face the friends that I had at the time. And so again, I apologize. Just want to give context to what I was going through during that season in my life. Fast forward to now, it's now 2026. And I've gone through a lot of healing. I've gone through a lot of deliverance. I knew that after dealing with this person, I needed deliverance for sure. It's funny how God turns around things for your good. And I wish I can get into more detail about my life now in regards of that situation, but I'm just gonna let time do the thing. And I just will say that God really redeemed the situation for me and he used it for my good. I was very, very broken 4 years ago. Very broken, very lost, very alone, very isolated. And now I'm so confident in myself. I have a better relationship with the Lord. I'm thriving. And it's just a testament that who you allow yourself to be with really determines the course of your life, like really determines, how you succeed in life and how you go about life. And so I just want to be an encouragement for other women out there and even men who have been in abusive relationships. I would just encourage you to surrender everything to God. It wasn't until I surrendered my will to God's will that he got me out of that situation that I got myself into. He really rescued me from a detrimental situation. And I remember when I was going through the fast, God gave me a vision that if you end up with this man, if you marry this man, the divorce is going to be very, very ugly. He gave me a vision of us across each other at a table with our lawyers. And he just showed me how nasty he would be. He also told me, he's like, if you stay with him, he's going to end up killing you. And I don't want to sound dramatic, but it was just the things that I was dealing with and the patterns that I recognized. I was like, yeah, this man is going to hit me and he's going to kill me. And I'm just really glad that God got me out of that situation. I really did settle. And I'm not saying that I settled because this person wasn't cute enough or handsome enough or they didn't have the best job. I'm not saying that in the sense of settling. The sense of settling that I'm saying is that I settled for someone who just treated me like trash. He didn't value me. He didn't think about my feelings. When he was sleeping with other women, he didn't consider how it would make me feel. So I settled for something that God never meant for me to go through. That was what settling for me was. I got into a relationship that I should have never gotten into, and lesson learned. God didn't just rescue me out of that relationship, but he healed my standards. He healed the way that I saw myself, and he healed the way that I saw love and what I was willing to accept. This relationship was my first adult relationship and kind of consumed all of my 20s. And now that I'm older, I am just very, very particular. I mean, I always was particular with who I dated. I didn't really date around much, but now I'm just more intentional. Like, the next person I date is going to be the person that I marry. But before I date them, I'm going to be sure, I'm going to vet them, You always inspect the fruit because this person was going to church with me. This person was doing premarital counseling with the church with me, dating in committed relationships with other women at the same time. I don't want to say that I regret that experience, although I would have loved to never have gone through all of that with this person. But I will say that I learned a lot, and You know, I've been very, very strict with the guys that come up to me that try to ask me out and all of the things. And it's not to say that I'm making them pay for the hurt this man caused me. I'm just much wiser, and I practice discernment because this is a spiritual battle that we're all going through. And Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And I'm very vigilant about that. I know that the next person that I date is going to be the person that I marry, and I know that the person I marry is going to be everything I've ever dreamed of and more. And most importantly, is going to be the person that God intended for me to marry. So this video is for any woman who has questioned their worth, questioned their sanity, questioned if they were hearing and seeing things correctly. Always listen to the red flags. There will always be red flags in the beginning. And surrender whatever you thought you wanted for your life to God. Just surrender it all. God, I surrender what I thought I wanted, and I want what you want for me. It's going to be uncomfortable, the healing process and surrendering control to God, but I promise you, he is so faithful, and you're his daughter. You're his precious daughter. Like, God is a girl dad, and all the things that have happened to us, that have broken us, it's not something that he's sent or done. It's maybe things that he's allowed to help grow us and make us wiser. But God he sees us as precious gems to him. We are the apple of his eye. And so wait for the man that treats you as such. Wait for the man that treats you as royalty, because you are a daughter of a king, and not just a king, the king. And once you realize your worth as a daughter of God, you'll learn not to accept anything less than what he's meant for you, anything less than what you deserve. I hope this video encouraged you. And, you know, if you're in a relationship that you shouldn't be in, cry out to God. He will get you out of that situation. And, you know, if you're in a relationship where the person is abusing you, whether it's verbal, emotional, or physical abuse, up until this year, I never considered myself to be in an abusive relationship. I thought, oh, he wasn't that bad. No. Once I spoke to other women who have experienced the same thing, it validated my experience, and it was like, no, you experienced abuse. It may not have been physical abuse, but you still experienced emotional and verbal abuse. Once I have grown to love myself and see my worth, I can recognize not to accept that type of love, because that's not even love. I've learned to recognize not to accept that type of treatment. And so if you are in a situation that was similar to mine or worse than mine, get out. Ask God to rescue you, and he will. So I hope this video encouraged you, and I'll see you guys on the next video.